Okay, we'll call the Thursday, February 1st, 2024 Town of Rome Board meeting to order. Roll call starting on my left, please.
Capel here.
Minter here.
Jumati here.
Bauerheit here.
Certify the post. Oh, sorry, that's correct. Gotta wait for you, the delay. Thank you, Jackie. Certify the posting of the meeting.
I certify that on Monday, January 29th, 2024, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, February 1st, 2024 was posted at the Rome Town Hall at 4:08 PM, posted at Quick Trip LLC at 4:35 PM, posted at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 4:25 PM, emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 4:15 PM.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, approve the agenda, please.
I'll move we approve the agenda as written.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Capel, a second by
We have some discussion, please?
I haven't gotten there yet.
Are you looking for a vote?
I haven't even read off the motion and the second. We
Fine.
haven't gotten there yet.
Go ahead.
Thank you. We have a motion by Supervisor Capel, a second by Supervisor Bauerheit.
Minter.
Supervisor Minter. Discussion.
Yes, I think we need to add an item to delineate our efforts to fill and define the role of the town administrator.
We did that already at the last meeting.
There's no update?
We'll let the interim administrator do that. He sent out emails and there's an organizational audit. We could do that at informational updates when we get to number 7.
Fine.
Any other discussion? For clarification, at the last meeting, the town board in the minutes said to engage Public Administration Associates LLC. The town board unanimously approved going forward. That's what we did. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Citizen comments, we have none. So I'll not read item number 6. No action contemplated except for possible referral to a future agenda. Number 7, informational updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Jason, do you want to start?
So, per the motion that was made at the last meeting, Public Administration Associates has put a proposal together. The chair signed that proposal. They've outlined a timeline to do the study that was requested, including the administrator position and what that should look like.
Sign up for a time frame, please.
Lori's passing a sign-around sheet for each board member to meet with that group to share their comments and concerns of what that position should look like. They'll also be meeting with department heads and other staff members. To move forward, they said they'd have a final report to us by April 1st, but would have preliminary report likely before that date. When the sheet comes around, the on-site times for them is next week, Thursday and Friday, and they will diligently start on their report after that. Those interviews are done on those 2 days.
Bill, do you have anything?
I do not.
Supervisor Minter?
I do not.
I attended a all-day seminar yesterday for Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation and Connect Communities. It was an update on housing and housing developments, as well as chambers, DMOs, a number of other interesting conversations took place. It was actually quite an exciting, if you would pass that down, please. Elements to come forward as different things that they can assist towns with. and villages in helping with economic development, especially in the Rome Town Center. They have a number of different tools that they offer that are available, and there are different pools of money that are available to towns and villages in moving forward. So that's pretty exciting opportunity. There's a number of free seminars and things coming up that are available to us as well. We also are looking at bonding soon for the road projects that we approved last fall. So we talked to our financial advisor, Greg Johnson, about those. And Brad is currently working on getting the bid projects moving forward, or getting the bid proposals moving forward on those as well. I believe we've covered everything, unless, Jason, did you have anything else you wanted to bring forward at this time? Okay. Jackie or Supervisor Bauerheit, did you have anything?
I have nothing.
Okay.
No, I have nothing.
All right, thank you. All right, discussion and possible action on the following items. Discussion and possible action, approval of the January 17th, 2024 meeting minutes. Did anybody have anything? Or do we have a motion first? I did have.
I'll move we approve as written.
I'll second with a correction. If on page 2 of the meeting minutes, it said under item 11 for the parks, it said there is an existing landscaping plan for the park that needs to be given to MSA for consideration. We said we would move that forward as part of the overall realignment of the park plan, but the existing landscaping plan at this point had just been an estimation that was done, but nothing was previously approved, just so that we can make a note of that we will move that forward as part of the consideration, but it was not previously approved by any committee or board.
I forwarded the existing preliminary plan that we have to hers for inclusion.
Okay, but just to make a note of it, that it hadn't been previously approved.
I'll amend my motion to include the change.
I'll amend my second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action, approval of vacation carryover for Police Chief Lauby. Motion to approve, or we need a motion to approve?
I'll move.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Supervisor Capel, second by Supervisor Bauerheit to approve the vacation carryover for Police Chief Lauby. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, there's a
She's
delay.
there.
I've got to remember that.
in
Sorry.
there.
All in favor? Aye.
Did that already.
Oh, I know, I'm just off with the, okay. Motion carries. Number 10, discussion and action, approval of the temporary Class B retailer's license for the Discover Rome Area Family Trails draft to sell fermented malted beverages at the Full Snow Moon Snowshoe and Candlelight Hike event to be held at 1001 County Road O on February 23, 2024, from 5:30 to 8 p.m.
I move to approve the temporary Class B retailer's license for draft.
I'll second, and then I have a question for Jason.
We have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit, second by Supervisor Capel, for the approval of a temporary Class B retailer's license for the Discover Rome Area Family Trails draft to sell fermented malt beverages at the Full Snow Moon Snowshoe and Candlelight Hike. There was discussion, a question?
This still requires them to have a licensed bartender doing the dispensing, does it not?
Correct.
And they've reported that they do have one?
I would have to check with the clerk
That's
treasurer
not a
on that.
requirement at this time.
Well, it is a requirement of
Because
this
it's not a
license.
requirement for us to document it, that I know of. It's, we tell them that they need to have one. I guess it's not, they don't tell us who they're using, as far as I know at this time.
Okay.
Maybe that needs to change, but
It should, I'm thinking that we should revise this so that they're aware of it and that it's on this application form and who the party will be, so that we know they're actually licensed.
I thought you just need an operator's license, not a bartender's license.
Not for dispensing. You still need I believe you still need a bartender, because when we did events here, we had to get a temporary license for the dispensing, and we had to have a licensed bartender on the premises.
The events
Nick,
that
could
we've
you-
done,
Nick-
I have an operator's license.
Excuse me, let me just we'll check with Nick
Yeah.
and Jason, can you clear this up for us, please?
If you had an operator's license, then that's a legal license for dispensing.
Okay, but it's not a bartender's license.
Well, it's
Okay,
an operator's
Can
license.
we
I
not
used the wrong.
discuss with the audience, please, because
I'm
we're
sorry.
in, both of you, please, just
Yep.
let's refer to the attorney, okay? We're really out of order a lot here tonight, so let's just get back on track. Nick?
So sometimes you'll hear operator's license and bartender's license used synonymously. What we can do is we can verify that they are compliant with what
that's all we need.
law requires, and so that can be part of this as an approval.
All right, so, based on what you've heard here this evening, can we move forward with this approval based on what,
Yes.
okay?
Yes, you can, and what
Thank
we will
you.
do is we will process it internally to make sure that they are compliant with those pieces.
I don't wanna hold it up.
All right, thank you.
I had one comment, just on the form itself, I think, Greg Broniak's name is misspelled on the application form. He's the president of draft, and I think his name is misspelled, it's just a housekeeping thing.
You are correct.
And then did you make a comment? Is there something that you wanted to see updated on the form, or is the form okay as it currently stands? Is there something that would be more helpful moving forward, that the form is
We
clear?
can't update this form, it's a Department
It's a
of Revenue form.
revenue form, okay, thank you for that clarification. All right. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got Jackie this time. Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Discussion and possible action, Rome Water Utility unbudgeted expenses. Did we want to allow the water utility representatives to come up this evening and give us an update on this, or is everybody?
She wants to, or I can handle it
All
either way.
right, so then do we want to have a motion first to move forward?
I'd like to move the item. There was a memo in your packet.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Supervisor Capel, second by Supervisor Bauer Height to approve the Rome Water Utility unbudgeted expenses. You want to give some background or explain the memo, or we're good?
Well, basically, our security system at well 3 is shot, and if we need to purchase a new screen a new touch screen in order to make it operable, we tried different bandages along with the company that actually services the equipment, and none were successful except for replacing the touch screen.
Awesome. Okay, everybody got it then?
And there is money available in the budget for the expense.
Okay, great, thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action, Visit Rome agreement feedback. Nick, you want to tee this one up, or where do we want to start?
I'd be happy to, sure. So, at last meeting, we had, some preliminary discussion and really left it, at last meeting with the idea that, you all would, review and anybody that wished to do so could, provide their comments, for consideration at this meeting. So what was, put together today, for today's meeting is a compilation of that feedback. And as I had said I would do, I tried to locate in the agreement, the current agreement, where that might relate to. There's two different colors in that current agreement. The yellow stuff just needs to be updated. It would have to be updated irregardless of what the actual specific provisions are. Things like references to Section 7 or Ordinance 7. That, since we've recodified with General Code, those are going to need to be updated. Those are just housekeeping matters, really, more than anything. The blue relates to areas where we receive feedback, in that compilation of feedback that would relate to. So largely, you can see the feedback related a lot to some of the duties that we have in our agreement, and some feedback was provided for additional duties, clarifying duties, and there were also pieces of feedback that related to ancillary agreements or external agreements that might be put in place, regardless of the contract for tourism promotion services, to better identify and lay out those kind of extra services that that Visit Rome provides to the town. So really at this point, it's kind of teed up for further discussion, feedback. If there are any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them. But for purposes of today's meeting, we wanted to get you the feedback so you could review that and we could continue the conversation.
Who wishes to start? Anybody? I'll start. I guess I appreciate the relationship we've had to date. I was here when a lot of this just started as 3 people with our little Rome Visitors Bureau, and it's amazing to see what it's evolved into. And the partnership is very good. Moving forward, I see there's lots of opportunity for us to move together as partners and continue that relationship. I do see, though, that 7 years is quite a commitment. And in talking to some of our other advisors from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, our financial advisor, and even the gentleman that's going to assist the town with our organizational structure, that making a long-term commitment such as this, understanding your planning and things like that, even our own planning, that 7 years on top of the 2 that still remain on the current contract is a long-term commitment for any municipality to make moving forward. And quite frankly, in the comments and that, there's other things. I mean, you look at the anticipated amount of money that would be coming in over the next number of years with the amount of growth that we're looking at in the room tax dollars. In a partnership that we would continue to maintain, there's different opportunities that we could consider, even such as possibly land use that we have in the Rome Town Center and looking at a visitor center there. Is there something we could do collaboratively there? I mean, there's different things that we could look at, and it just seems to me personally, I'm looking at this as the driving factors being rental space, growing staff, which I understand that happens to everybody. We're all trying, to find workers, the needs and such, but preserve and protect what we currently have and build the infrastructure that will draw tourism, but yet also be for our people that live here. So if you look at the money that we're looking at coming forward 9 years down the road, we could anticipate approximately another $200,000 a year for the next 9 years, and that puts us well over the $1 million mark. So working together collaboratively with the assistance of economic development partners as well, side by side, is there other things we could be doing? And if you look at really the room tax, what the DOR puts out for room tax, it says marketing projects, which you're doing, you're great at it. You look at transient tourist informational services, you're doing it. Your digital marketing campaigns are amazing. You're doing that. What other programs are you really promoting? I mean, we've got Links to the Lakes. That's incredible. You wrote a great grant. But now what about tangible municipal development? Do we really need a convention center? I don't know. Are we? No, maybe not. But there's other tangible municipal developments that I see that could be a real mutual benefit. And so can we supply the land for that? We have it. I mean, it's possible, and that's mutually beneficial for both our organizations. So as partners moving forward, I see a premier center being, a good investment. We could have athletic facilities there. We could have other facilities available to our community. You could have that visitor center there. You could have local artists. Other communities have such a thing. They come in. They have that right in Wisconsin Rapids. The other thing I see in here that Visit Rome has proposed is working with the nonprofits and then retaining some of those funds and working with them. And we certainly stand by and recognize those nonprofits as well, but we have yet to realize what it's going to cost us to operate that park. This will be the first year that park's going to be open, and there's going to be maintenance expenses and things involved, and we don't know what those will be yet. And we just started taking a look at those as part of a financial analysis for the land use planner and economic development planner that we're working with, that we contracted with last year. So moving forward, those are things that we need to think of. So those are just some of the thoughts that I have to get this conversation started. So those are some of the things I thought of. It just seems like renting the space, granted you're growing out of that, I understand. And you may have staff you wanna add, but I don't know if those are the driving things for me right now, that I wanna lock in 9 years. So, I'm just being honest and sharing my thoughts. So if anybody else wants to go.
Yeah, I don't think a 7-year extension is anything that we can't deal with, especially if we have a biennial review of things that are gonna be added perhaps to the contracts, things that we wanna change or modify. We could certainly do that, so, I would certainly be in favor of the 7-year extension. And I think there was other people who also are in agreement with that too, right? From the feedback that you got?
Okay, I would be in favor of the 7-year extension. I would also note that contract can be, canceled at any time, and the agreement can be changed at any time. If you're not locked in, and it can't be adjusted or, altered, and so I think for that reason, I also think Visit Rome is one of the things in the town of Rome that is not broken right now. It's working well, it's got success, and I think we should let it grow and continue its success and focus our efforts on the things that we do not have functioning well right now. And continue the Visit Rome contract to maybe shift more focus on hiring a town administrator, taking care of zoning, and the things that, in my mind, are not running well right now.
Can I just make
Oh,
one?
sure, go
Just
ahead.
add one clarification, because it was stated that the agreement can be terminated for any reason. Technically, our agreement as it's drafted today is for cause, so if there's not a carrying out of terms of the agreement, it could be canceled, but that's the only way that this can be canceled. We can put something in that says it could be terminated with or without cause, certainly, and so I've taken that feedback, but I just wanna clarify for you all that that our current agreement does
Is-
not just leave, a 30-day window or 60 or 90-day window of just backing out of the agreement. It is an agreement for a term that can be broken if there is, if there's a failure to carry out the duties that are in the agreement, but not anything else.
I have a question for our town attorney. Would it be out of order to request a closed session for the purposes of coming up with a negotiated contract?
Sure. So that there are permissible provisions of 1985 to go into closed session to negotiate a contract, yes.
Then I would recommend that for our next agenda, we have a closed session on this item.
Well, if we're gonna do that, then I would suggest that we have our town attorney work with Visit Rome staff and develop a draft contract for us to review.
I wonder why we would need a closed session. There's a lot of comments that this board's having quite a few closed sessions, and why aren't things just being done in the open? I don't understand why you would need a closed session to discuss this.
It's the purpose of negotiating a contract, just as we do other contracts. We've
There's
had
really
closed
no
sessions.
financial things that we're gonna be talking about that aren't already published.
Well, there might be other financial issues.
And quite frankly, is it appropriate to have them working for both bodies at this point?
Is it appropriate to what? I didn't hear that.
You're asking if it's appropriate for
Well-
me to be?
We'll have them to go work with Visit Rome and write it, and then come back
I
and
see what
work
you're
with
saying.
us, and then,
To that point, I think if I would feel comfortable with doing anything when it relates to drafting a contract, I would need more direction from you all as the town's attorney, what you want to see in an agreement, right? Because we have feedback here that isn't totally consistent. I need to have some direction from you all. I can draft a contract, but I need to have that direction. What's the term? What kind of termination provision? Do I just do with or without cause? Do I flesh out the duties and just use everything that I've received as all the duties that would go into it? again, I'm happy to do whatever you all direct me to do, but I would need a little bit more direction from you all before I would really feel comfortable with some kind of even proposal, because I've received a number of different points of feedback. I just need to know what to go with.
Other than the 5 and 7 year discrepancy, what other items were there that were?
Sure, there seems to be some, more than one, feedback that we've received regarding the importance, for example, of a visitor center. Well, there's a couple different ways that gets carried out. Are we outlining a specific spot or expectation for a visitor center? What is our involvement with that? Are we putting in place a commission that's going to work with Visit Rome to identify a location for the visitor center and the specs of it and the carrying out of it? That's a pretty big piece that is just in one part of your feedback, Supervisor Barheit, and your feedback, Chairwoman, I believe others. So I would just say that there are certain things that, as you start to peel that back, there's a lot more to it. And so, again, I can put something in an agreement, but when you start to really dive into that piece, I think we need to have a better, everybody needs to have a better understanding of what your expectations are for things like a visitor center. There's a lot to that.
I know, I mean, if you have your own board members even questioning the fact that you need a visitor center that large and this soon, I mean, maybe it is something that you need to discuss at your board meeting. You know, so, I mean, maybe that's something you need to talk, I don't know, but I talked very positively about your entire process and what you're doing for us and what we do for you, but there are things that have grown and expanded as part of this partnership. I've referred to it as a partnership, but there are other things that we do with one another and for one another, and do they need to be clear as we move forward? You're talking about using the band shell, that Visit Rome doing the work. Well, we own and we're responsible for that piece of property. So do we have to have that clearly spelled out in that agreement, or is that a separate agreement? Or is that an MOU, or how does that look? And then the money's being handled by the town, but it has to be clearly understood. It just can't be a handshake anymore, or an agreement, or an understanding. Because there's also comments that, well, people can do this work, but then, well, we're not the piggy bank. And, well, quite frankly, we're the piggy bank. So, I mean, putting it politely, the room tax comes from the people that come here, and we split the money. But the partnership is, there's these other things that we can do, and tangible municipal developments that if we make that partnership more of a discussion, we could have a visitor center that's truly an athletic center, or that builds inside pickleball courts. So that is something we could talk about and work on together. But are we having those discussions as a group? I'm just, yes, please.
We're paralyzed. Until you give us a long-term extension, we can't begin to have those conversations.
Sure you can. A 5 year.
I will not entertain anything with our board until we have length. Right now, we have a 2-year agreement, and until there's certainty beyond 2 years, we will not consider anything further. We can't begin that long-range planning without certainty. That takes a lot of effort, and there is desire amongst our board to act upon those considerations that you have just mentioned.
Great.
But an inability to look beyond 2 years prevents that. That's why we want to have a long-term agreement. When you look at communities that do have visitor centers, that do have other facilities that you are describing, the typical agreement is 10+ years. And that is standard across this nation. I've worked in 5 different states and served on 5 different visitor bureaus. To be able to go out and seek funding and to maintain an asset of that nature requires us to have that long-term agreement that which we can go out and pursue financing and to even hire consultants to look into that concern. And so without an agreement, beyond the 2 years we have, we can't even begin to formulate a plan or a long-range vision for that, because we're looking ahead to, well, what's the next year look like? 24 months will come faster than we know.
Oh, I know. Well, and it's interesting, I appreciate your comments, but in talking with the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation just yesterday, 5 years seems to be a reasonable time frame to have that conversation, so I respectfully disagree.
Question
Yes.
for you. So we're talking this extension. Now, are we talking 5 years tacked onto the ending date of 2026, which would then be 7 years from now? Or are we talking redoing 5 years effective 2024, which would just be 2029? If it's 5 years tacked onto the existing 2, now you're at 7 years, which is getting 3/4 of the way roughly to your 10-year goal. And then perhaps we could put something in there. I think there was some clause about it in one of the comments about revisiting it every couple of years, where if some of those big plans start to materialize from your board, well, then maybe, you know, if you have this really great, awesome opportunity for this visitor center, maybe 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, then we can, you know, we can come back and do it again. You know, we're not saying, you know, I don't think any of us are saying, well, we don't wanna look at doing anything, at least for me, I'd say 5 years onto the existing 2. That gets you out 7, and then revisit as needed along the way. That's sort of in my mind, it's sort of a medium compromise between
And
the
I think
two.
to clarify my comments, I was specifying with regard to the agreements that municipalities have those additional amenities that can afford them.
Right.
I would not be in favor of an extended term agreement for a community such as Wisconsin Rapids, because those resources do not exist. They're not actively looking to build a convention center. They're not looking towards those longer range, bigger projects. That's really the crux of the issue. If you look at what, you know, was just built in the Dells for their center or in Green Bay, those are bigger term projects that take longer than 24, 48 months to go through the initial phase. Just our planning for the Link the Lakes project took over 18 months before we were even at the grant writing phase. And so that's a lot of work that goes in to possibly come up, and now what do we do? And these grants are requiring us for certainty. We have to come before you to get those letters. And we can't even begin to consider that. So we could possibly be leaving more money on the table as we look at what could a community center, visitor center include. So right now we're kind of paralyzed because of where we're at.
I think there was some initial frustration with the Link to Lakes too, wasn't there? Like $75,000 spent initially and then didn't get, but I mean, things take time, and you know, we all run into initial expenditures and things take more time and you have to rethink them and reevaluate, but I think 5 year, adding 3 years onto the initial 2 you still have remaining, that allows you time to, and that allows the town.
I'd go to 5 on the initial 2, split the difference between what they're looking for. It gives them a little bit more certainty to be able to pursue some of those potential bigger projects.
Is that what our community wants? Do they want do they want all that? Is that what the people want?
But we won't know until they look into it.
I mean, where are the tourism, if you look at what you look at what the DOR describes as tourism promotion and development, is that what they describe?
I think we're making this overly complex. I mean, we've all had opportunity to give our comments to the attorney, and I believe probably copied to Visit Rome. I don't see why he can't put together a memorandum and a contract that we can consider. Maybe you have 2 different options in there in a couple different places to accommodate different thoughts, and we can vote on that as we approve the contract.
What do we cover too, Nick, as far as like we have that host compliance agreement that we share the cost on that? Is that something now that we need to have a separate side agreement for that? I mean, there's a lot of things that have been part of that partnership, you know, so now as this goes on for a longer period of time, do we need to consider those types of things? Do they need to be spelled out more specifically?
Yeah, well, so you talked about a couple different things that I think would be ripe for side agreements and not necessarily spelled out in this tourism promotion and development agreement. That might be one of them. Certain expectations that we have for the band shell or Rome Town Center might be another one as a side agreement. I think that was mentioned with a number of your feedback, was the idea that we have some ancillary agreement that spells out the terms of those things.
I don't know how the cost of running the band shell got wrapped into this. To me, we were only talking about having Visit Rome book acts into the band shell and to the gazebo. So it's as simple as that.
I think that I'm saying, I'm actually trying to unwrap it from it.
Good.
There were a number of feedback that did relate to it, including, I believe, your own
Right.
Supervisor Barheit, that referenced it, and I'm simply trying to unwrap that and say that we would probably generally reference those kind of things in this agreement, and there would be a side agreement to very clearly specify the terms that that both sides expect to see in that. I think we talked about that kind of at budget time too.
I think the side agreements make a lot of sense for some of those things, like operating the band shell or the host compliance thing, because the main contract is us contracting with them to promote Rome tourism, and therefore bring in tourism tax dollars that they use to promote Rome tourism, and we use for budgetary purposes. You know, anything else that's there is aside to the main thing. So,
Because in the document that they had shared with us, they said, consideration for, when it came to booking that if the nonprofits would use it, which we already give consideration to nonprofits with providing services, and that they would, offer, let's see here, where did it say that? They would offer that money back or give it to the nonprofits, and I can't find it right in this document. I don't have Visit Rome's right here in front of
but I
me.
agree with Supervisor Bauer, said that's overly complicating what we're talking about.
Right,
We need the general structure first,
right,
then we can tack on those other pieces.
right, right.
But I think our attorney is asking us for direction, what would we want him? And I don't wanna make a motion right now, because I don't wanna cut anybody off in the audience that wants to speak. But,
I think we just have him go forward with drafting in some of the points we covered tonight and then bring it back with that
yeah, but what
5
point?
years, the 5 years you wanted on, I don't know if we agree with that or if we,
Well, Supervisor Bauer, what do you think about if we started at a 5-year extension from the end of the current agreement?
I think that'd probably be okay, but on the other hand, they're asking for a 7-year add-on to what we have right now, and I think we ought to vote and see who's in favor of it and who isn't.
Okay.
I've got a couple other questions that I would want some maybe clarity on. The other one would be the review. I know that came in as a number of feedback points suggested a review every maybe 2 years
Right.
or with some kind of term. Is that what you want to see in a
Yes.
proposed?
Yes, some sort of review period should be in there.
Okay.
It gives opportunity for both sides to propose updates based upon the current conditions, which, who knows what the current conditions will be 2-3 years from now.
Okay.
I
Another
would
one-
think there's a natural review time at the time that the annual report is given to the board, and it's either accepted or not accepted, so that almost is built in as far as an annual review goes. I don't think you need to add another one. I think you can do it at that point.
You can, although I
You're-
can actually just align it, make it clearer.
Or add the fact that the contract can be reviewed at the same time as the annual report.
Right. An annual review then, it wouldn't be every 2 years, it would be an annual review at the time of the annual report.
Gentlemen.
That allows us to deal with anything that comes up
He had his hand
in the
up.
I
interim.
think we'll leave the discussion right now between us and
Another-
Visit Rome. Is it Tom that wanted to bring,
No.
no, okay, no.
Mark?
No, I think we'll leave it just between us and Visit Rome right now, but thank you,
Can I ask another
What?
question?
yes.
Okay, another question would be, Supervisor Cole brought it up, the idea, I think she had mentioned, being able to terminate with or without cause, is that what you wanna see in this agreement?
Yes, I would,
think that was whatever the termination currently stands as, not to change it with or without cause. I'm wondering if it would be, allowed to bring a motion at this time. So I would make a motion to extend the Visit Rome contract by 5 years, tacking on the time at the end of the current expiration of the contract, and ask our attorney to update any legal references and add a review period every 2 years up to the contract.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Supervisor Cole, a second by Supervisor Bauerheit to add on 5 years to the current 2 years. Discussion?
That would bring the contract end to what year?
2031.
31.
Okay.
I still believe that there's other discussion points here that we need to have specified. Just the length of the contract isn't enough, but
Well, the motion had length and review. It was every 2 years for the review as well.
true, but there's other discussion points I think in here that people brought up.
There's a motion and a second.
I know, and I asked for discussion, so there's more discussion now, so. Any other discussion?
I think there's other things that need to be changed in the draft for the contract.
So, question, and in the current motion that's on the floor, the motion was to extend the contract for 5 years tonight. We pass it and it gets extended with the updates to the legal language that's in there. Is that what we're intending, or are we wanting the attorney to draft a extension agreement incorporating that time and the legality and some of these other suggestions for us to consider then at the next meeting? Which are we looking for?
My motion was just to extend the contract, but from the 5-year period, correcting any legal items that need to be done and adding that the contract be reviewed every 2 years.
We can have other side agreements, other memorandums of understanding
True.
for the band shell.
And I think that was the motion and that was the second, so that's the motion on the floor.
Okay.
Okay, roll call vote starting on my left, and that would be starting with Jackie then.
Aye.
Bill?
No.
Dan?
Aye.
Aye, for the purposes of wanting to bring this back at some point.
Aye.
Motion carries. The item may return on the agenda for further discussion, for more points.
Okay, so just if I could, before we move on, I will draft then an update to the agreement with those points that were part of the motion and that carried, and then it'll be on the next agenda or some future agenda.
Yes.
As I understand it.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to see those drafted up and then before, yeah. Thank you. All right. All right, do you have a copy? I buried that here somewhere, I think. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. All right, next agenda item, discussion and possible action on building and zoning update. I believe, Jason, did you email that to everyone? They had an update?
Yes, everybody's got the update Dan provided,
All right.
which
So
was
we-
directed at the last meeting, was to get the items that are being done, so they're.
On a regular
listed here.
basis. And Taylor is progressing and assuming roles and getting the training that she needs, and things are moving along smoothly in the zoning department, is that correct?
Yes,
Plan commission is all ready and set to go at the next meeting? So
Correct.
there's no problems in our zoning department, is that correct?
I believe that's correct. As of right now, the plan commission materials for February are taken care of. Already working on March. I believe she's doing very well in the department as it relates to plan commission and short-term rentals and some of the items.
CSMs,
Yep.
land divisions,
I'm not sure that we've had a
land division
large-
just yet, but she's moving along quite nicely. Thank you very much for that report. Discussion and possible action. Approval of various appointments to the Town of Rome committees and commissions. A, Heather Dalton, vacant, Community Development Authority, expiring May 1st, 2027, four-year term. B, Colleen Asmussen, vacant, Community Development Authority, expiring May 1st, 2027, four-year term. Tom Gabriel, vacant, Plan Commission, expiring May 1st, 2024, three-year term. Sandy Davidson, vacant, Library Board, expiring January 1st, 2027, three-year term. Tom Gabriel, vacant Utilities Committee, expiring May 1st, 2026, three-year term. Deb Schumacher, vacant Utilities Committee, expiring May 1st, 2025, three-year term.
Move to approve the various appointments to the committees as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made by Supervisor Bauerheit, second by Supervisor Capel, to approve the various appointments to the Town of Rome committees and commissions as presented. Any discussion?
Just a question.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jackie.
oh, I was just gonna say Colleen Asmussen's name is misspelled.
Yeah, we caught that. Thank you.
Okay.
So, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it just for clarification. So like Tom Gabriel's planning commission appointment expired May 1, 2024 for a three-year term. That means that in May of this year, we appoint somebody for another three-year term at that. He's filling out the remainder of this prior three-year term, correct?
What'll happen with that particular appointment, we already covered, and I'll explain. Thank you for clarifying. What happens is that when he comes on the town board, he'll take the town board seat that Bill will be vacating, and we hopefully will transition Bill into the vacant citizen seat
Okay.
because of the experience. So that'll work
Makes
out
sense to
really
me.
well.
There's a lot of hope there.
All right.
Because that happened once before with Jerry Wiesinger when he was on the board and then went to the citizen appointment. So yeah, we worked that out, that's how that'll work. So thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, dates and items for future agendas and meetings. Next agenda items. As we've learned, the agenda will build itself out. Next meeting date is February 15th at 5 p.m. Meeting adjourned at 6:48 p.m. 5:48.